to see you in the carriage, guys.
Yes.
Sunday. We're going to go on a little ride through the carriage and explore some interesting conversations.
Yeah. See where it takes us.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw an idea out there for the two of you because, as you know, I was in the Southwest a couple of weeks ago, and it's so beautiful there. You know, New Mexico has this very quiet, kind of simple beauty. And it had me thinking about just our draw, you know, the human draw, our attraction to beauty, right? Whether it's a beautiful face or a beautiful landscape or a beautiful piece of art. So I thought that might be an interesting area to explore in some more depth. What do you think?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, I think that if you look at today, there's so much focus on image and visual, the sort of visual modality, and people are looking all the time towards beauty. And I wonder why there is this draw. It's really interesting.
Well, I mean, you know, when we're talking about beauty, right, like we have to start by understanding what does that mean, right? We use that word so freely. We use, you know, like, oh my God, like there's such an indent beauty into that, right? Like, what a beautiful person, what a beautiful situation this is. But what exactly does that mean? There's so many different lenses.
It's a great question, right? Because I was actually thinking about that today, and I thought, well, I'm not sure beauty is tangible, right? It seems to be more of like a perception, something that exists in the mind. And yet it's universal. It's been with us through time, this attraction to certain things. I always take kind of an evolutionary focus just to see what the function of what function beauty plays in our lives.
Yeah.
WTF, what's the function?
What is the function, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, when you look at nature's filled with symmetry and fractals and things that actually drive our attraction to beautiful things. I mean, if you look at pine cones, snowflakes, flowers even, they all contain like fractal patterns. And you know, throughout evolution, how did that help us survive? You know, I think it helped us determine, you know, what was edible on the land, what was safe. You know, is this water a safe passage for crossing? Are the clouds going to bring us rain today?
Okay. So we've got beauty as something akin to safety.
Yes.
Okay.
That's very interesting.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, anything that I think activates that survival function for us also activates the reward centers in our brain.
Yeah.
So it's very reinforcing.
Yeah, and perhaps evolutionary necessity for you know, sort of genetic passing on good genetics that would make stronger and more capable people to survive. You know, so I think it does have a basis in survival. But it also makes me think about the fact that it's kind of intangible to beauty. It's sort of, it's what it makes you feel. Like, how would you actually describe or define or be able to actually define, like, what is beauty? Like, what is considered beautiful and what isn't considered beautiful? It seems like the search or the seeking. There's a constant seeking for beauty, and I think the beauty industry in our world really uses the seeking that we have as humans. That we want this beauty, we're looking for it all the time, and the beauty industry plays such an important role in our world. We're always trying to be more beautiful. There's this like striving or the seeking, and I'm kind of interested in that. And I wonder if it is linked to that evolutionary need that we have to kind of preserve our survival and to actually make it through, or if there's something else.
Well, I mean, okay, so from kind of like an evolutionary perspective, right? Like we have this neurological response, right? We have a surge in our dopaminergic systems, right? A release in dopamine that comes from looking at something that is attractive to us. Right? We feel really good when we see something, right? We feel pleasurable. We feel like, oh my God, this is great. I like this. I'm going to go towards this, right? So evolutionarily, we can see how okay, this has worked out. I will pursue the thing that I like. But you were saying it's not really a tangible thing. There's that external that we're talking about, right? Evolutionarily, we see, we experience, right? That external beauty. But then there's that intrinsic side of it, right? That internal beauty. And I think that, a lot of like the cultural implications of this, right? So if you go to different cultures will say, well, this is a sign of beauty. This is a sign of beauty. But where is that internal beauty? Where is it that we can find some semblance of symmetry, some semblance of that internalized sense of fulfillment, that congruence? And like, to me, I think that internal beauty is akin to coherence and congruence, in the same way that external beauty is akin to symmetry and patterns, because we are pattern seeking. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. What do you guys think on that? What comes up for you?
Well, I'm thinking about how our perceptions can easily shift, right? So, I mean, just with people in general, right? Like, we may look at somebody and, maybe that person carries what we would consider traditional beauty, right? They're traditionally beautiful. But then we have an interaction with that person.
Yeah.
And our perception can change based on that interaction, right? For better or for worse.
Absolutely.
Which brings us back to this idea that beauty is truly internal. I mean, this doesn't, I think, undermine the idea that there are universals, right? Which we see, right? There are universals that have withstood the test of time, certain images, certain paintings. And I don't think we can get away from that. I think that's like hardwired into our DNA. But I do think, our individual perceptions of beauty can definitely change given the context and situation.
So kind of going with this idea that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But then there's some things that are just, like, let's say, the beauty that you saw when you were traveling.
Yeah.
That sort of natural beauty that everybody would agree that this is beautiful. And what I'm kind of interested in, what you were saying about the internal sort of thing that happens when we see beauty, like what happens to us when we actually see something absolutely magnificent, something really bigger than us, larger than us. What kind of feeling does it give us inside? And what is that? Like, that's really, really interesting. Because I'm thinking about Rudolf Steiner, who is an anthroposophical philosopher, Austrian philosopher who wrote in the early 1900s. And what he says about beauty is that beauty is actually the ethereal. Beauty represents the spiritual. It represents something beyond this physical world. He writes about, which I find really interesting, he writes about truth, beauty, and goodness as it is associated with sort of our inner child. Like that there is this, when you think about all of us as children, how we had that wonder and that excitement and that interest and that attraction towards, the good, where he speaks about the good, the truthful, and the beautiful. And what I find interesting is he says that truth is the physical body. The physical body is truth. You can't lie about the physical body, and that the ethereal body is beauty. And I find that really, really interesting because I think about things around addiction, things about craving, and about the human spirit and our search for what are we looking for. And I think it's AA that says the sort of God-shaped hole. We're looking for this God-shaped hole, and when it's concretized, when we attempt to sort of concretize the spiritual or beauty, we kind of put it in a concrete way. We're insatiable. It's insatiable. You can't get enough. Like if you're filling that hole, and I think it's Jung who termed the word spirit in a bottle, right? Like we're drinking and we're trying to fill that hole with spirit, but maybe we're seeking something that's not of this world. Maybe we're seeking something that's more of a spiritual realm. So.
Something more fulfilling than just the surface level. Something a little bit more that can fill our cup. Right? Something a little more impactful.
That makes us,
You had asked, what is it we feel? I think for me, and I wonder if this is, a common response, I think it might be that when you're standing in the presence of something truly beautiful or awe-inspiring, it makes us feel sort of not only small, but also connected to something much bigger, right? So it has almost a transcendent quality to it when we're in the presence of something truly beautiful.
I'm thinking about that whole truly beautiful. There was something I was reading the other day that it talked about kind of like the synergy between the external and the internal. That true beauty comes from the harmony of the external meeting the internal, right? Where you have within the world outside of us, right? So I always try to see the world in the terms of definitions, right? I think that, you know, we as social creatures, we strive to communicate so we can get whatever is going on neurologically inside of us or inside of our hearts and communicate it verbally so that another person can understand us. We seek to have that understanding. We seek that connection. And kind of talking about addiction, right? You know, I kind of go out in my practice and I talk to individuals in group sessions. And one of the things I've noticed is the opposite of addiction, a lot of the times turns out to be connection.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what are we connecting? What are we looking for?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And when we're talking about that beauty, we're talking about that congruence, right? That symmetry, that pattern. So we want to connect to something. Addiction takes us from that, but it like the spirit in the bottle, right? It's the spirit in the bottle is the thing that really fills that gap. It fills that we can't drink from that cup enough, but it's not to the point where it's maladaptive. It fills us in a way that we can kind of give back. But with addiction, we're filling that bottle with something that is effervescent, right? It comes and goes, it just bubbles away, and then it's never really fulfilling.
It's like the illusion of beauty.
The illusion of beauty. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, it's not satiating.
Right.
It doesn't actually meet that need.
It's never enough.
It's never enough. Yeah.
That's why they call it the disease of more, right? You're always getting a little bit more, but it's never enough.
And you think about the illusion of beauty, searching for beauty. I think about, you know, young women today, or actually all people with so much pressure to be a certain thing, you know, and the beauty industry is just making so much money off the seeking, and perhaps the seeking is actually seeking for the illusion of beauty because you never ever get there. So if you buy this product, you know, but then you need that product, or maybe it's this new makeup.
Well, it's like the what is it? The hedonic treadmill, right? Where it's like you get this one shiny thing that replaces the next one, and the next one, and you're just going in a cycle. And there's so much money to be made off of that.
They capitalize on our insecurities, right?
Yeah.
And maybe our seeking of beauty. That's
right.
On our seeking this feeling of connection. And I think that's what you're saying.
So you know, kind of a question that pops in is what happens when you provide that kind of fulfillment? What happens when you provide the alternative, the opportunity to have that kind of connection where it's not effervescent, it's not temporary, it doesn't just fizzle out, right? What happens to the person at that moment?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I think that this also goes really well with the concept that Deb Dana from the Polyvagal Institute brings. She has this concept called glimmers. Have you come across glimmers?
Like triggers and glimmers?
Yeah, triggers and glimmers, right?
Yeah.
So a glimmer is opposite to a trigger. And a glimmer is capturing like a micro moment of beauty, really, or a micro moment of joy, or a micro moment. I mean, maybe you want to give some words to how you see a glimmer, but it's that connection, right? It's like stopping for a moment and actually seeing a flower and just standing with that flower for a couple of seconds and just noticing it. And just allowing yourself, because I think there's a difference also looking at beauty or being in it. You know, like there's something there about like how, you know, how do we experience beauty? Sometimes we're like looking at it from a, you know,
from a safe distance.
From a safe distance, which also brings longing, I guess, you know. But coming back to Deb Dana and her glimmers, I think that can be really helpful because that is connection. When you sort of stop and notice something beautiful. And I've also sort of asked, is that kind of like a spiritual bypassing? Like, are we just looking for all the beautiful things? And I think not. I think that we can, it's about sort of in the pain, in the struggles that we have, in the difficulties and the questions and the trauma and what we're going through, there is still beauty all around us, and that can be like a resource for us while we are struggling, while we are going through our.
So there's okay. So I enjoy like anime. I enjoy like I do D&D. I do DMing, all that jazz. I'm a therapist. I do all these different hats. And one of the things that there's a line that actually pops up in my head from what was this movie that came out on Netflix? K-pop Demon
Demon Hunters.
Yes, K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
And it goes, what was it? It talks about like finding the beauty in the broken glass, right? I've broken into a million pieces and I can't go back. And now I see the beauty in the broken glass, and it's being able to find the beauty within that chaos. And so much about what we do as therapists is being able to help people see, like you put it wonderfully, it's like suffer with grace, right? And it's being able to find that synergy within the chaos and within the goodness so that we can find the beauty, the congruence.
Isn't that the dialectic that we're always trying to kind of hold, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we live in a culture that I think sometimes pathologizes the pain, right?
Yeah.
But we know that one cannot exist without the other.
Right.
I mean, there is no beauty in the world if there's also not dark and ugly and all of the things that we perceive as the other.
Yeah. We cannot run from the pain of life, but we can choose what kind of pain we do want to experience. Do we want the pain of doing the uncomfortable, or do we want the pain of the regret from not taking that risk and taking that chance to do the uncomfortable thing? And taking that kind of idea and then looking at it and saying, okay, is that congruence within myself? Is that congruence of that kind of internalized beauty? Am I okay with these pieces inside of me, with these parts inside of me? Am I okay with the actions and the inactions, right? And I mean, we've kind of gone from the external to the internal, and I think this is a lot of what it is that we kind of want to bring in, right? Exploring a bit, because in our practices, I know that I'm speaking for me, but I can assume as well that people struggle with this
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The feeling of not being enough, right? And oftentimes that enough is not feeling attractive enough, or not feeling skinny enough, or not feeling whatever enough.
Like you have enough hair,
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of trying to meet this ideal of what enough actually is. But I like what you're saying is can you feel enough internally? Like, is it, what is the sort of relationship between what is enough for me and what is enough that's presented in the world? There are these standards that we're sort of trying to measure ourselves up to.
These kind of expectations placed on us, right?
Standards that keep changing, by the way, changing and shifting, and
Which makes it unpredictable.
yes,
And what do humans hate the most? Any animal, any creature, right?
yeah.
Unpredictability. We like the familiar.
We do, but we also can get easily bored with the familiar. So if we
Right.
were all surrounded with white blank walls, it actually would increase our cortisol levels and decrease our well-being,
It's
Yeah.
so
right?
interesting.
So we
Right.
need a little bit of complexity, which is sort of, I come back to the fractals, right? Because there's the fractals sort of represent that duality of like, there's a predictability because these are patterns,
Right.
right? But there's also this perception of chaos, not too much though, but just enough,
The spice.
right?
Yeah.
Right? The unpredictable a little bit.
Well, because that is our reality. I mean, that is what we're working towards getting comfortable with, is the uncertainty. And of course, we don't like it, but that's our work,
Yes.
is to get comfortable with the fact that there's some things that are unknown. And so it's quite interesting, what you're saying, Paige, about how it appears in how it appears in us being attracted to things that actually stimulate our interest in a little bit of chaos, like we are, because we actually need to learn how to tolerate that and how to develop capacity
Yes.
to be with those things.
You just said a word, tolerate, right? I think there's a big difference between tolerate,
Mhm.
which I think is being able. I find it akin to like holding up a shield, right?
Yeah.
When we're kind of feeling like there's a fire breathing dragon coming at
Mhm.
us, right? We have to hold up this shield, right?
Mhm.
The fire breathing dragon, right, is this like uncomfort. It's this life getting very difficult, anything like that. We hold up that shield
Mhm.
and we can tolerate it for a while, but then we get tired for a bit. The shield gets hot, right?
Mhm.
Circumstances get a little bit unruly.
Mhm.
But then there's this other thing, right? Tolerating versus accepting.
Right.
When we learn to accept, it's almost like this whole this very uniform kind of
Mhm.
immersion into it, right? We do not burn from the flame. We kind of like adapt to it, and we become
Mhm.
part of it, and then we kind of transform that. It's
Mhm.
transmuting the energy,
Mhm.
transmuting the circumstance of it.
Mhm. Yeah,
So-
I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
agree with
I
you.
love that though.
I agree with you that it's that really what we're working towards is acceptance and a deeper
Yeah.
understanding, and not just tolerating it. But I think that we start maybe by tolerating. 'Cause
Right.
We have to start in little bits and little tiny little pieces as we like titrate and get used to.
It's a fractals.
Exactly, small little fractals that
Yeah.
make up this. It's really interesting.
You know what was interesting? I came across some research that was done like in the early 80s, some of these earlier studies by Ulrich. And he looked at just individuals that were in either hospitals or nursing homes. And what he found is like patients that were recovering from gallbladder surgery.
Mhm.
Actually, if they had a view of trees outside of their window, they required less pain medication and recovered more quickly
Wow.
than patients who didn't have that. And I think that's been replicated a couple of times, as well.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like hope.
Yes.
It's almost like hope.
Right.
Some might say is beautiful.
Right.
Some might say is dangerous too.
Well,
Yeah.
depending on what type of hope.
Type of hope, right?
Type of
Yeah.
hope we have. But hope for life. Hope for that semblance of symmetry, of the potential of things being okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think then that's what nature gives us is that everything looks okay. It connects, it works, it flows, it's alive, and so I mean that's very interesting. Yeah, that research is interesting.
So
Yeah.
is beauty alive? Does it grow? Does it change? We know that the beauty standards change all the time,
Standards
Yeah.
change.
right? The
Yeah.
expectations rise and fall and everything. But this beauty itself, right? Like the very kind of like this abstract nature of it, does it change as we
so.
grow or no?
I don't
Do you
think
think it's
so
been a
either.
constant?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Since the
Yeah,
dawn.
that's kind of the universal, that I'm talking about, the symmetry, the golden ratio, the fractals. Like
Mm.
they're part of us. We're part of nature, so inevitably, we will continue, I think, to seek that out.
Absolutely. And I think that's the polyvagal Deb Dana's kind of idea with the glimmer is that it sort of reminds us of our own biology, of a sort of a connection, because it's regulating. It actually regulates
Yes.
our somatic being. It regulates
Yes.
our nervous system. When we look at something, a fractal or a flower or something beautiful, it actually brings us into parasympathetic because it reminds us perhaps of our own biology, of our inner workings. So that's really interesting.
I think about, I cannot remember for the life of me where it comes from, but it's this idea, it's a story where if you're walking down the road and you see a flower on the side, right? If you love that flower, right, the choice is one of two things, right? Do you pick it and take it with you? But if you pick it and you take it with you, then it dies, right? You can spray it with hairspray, you can put it in a book and everything, but it becomes this kind of memory of what was.
Right.
But if you let it be and you let it run its course, every time you take that path, you have that moment, that brevity of time that you can appreciate it. and you can really enjoy the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something beautiful, really.
Well, it's interesting though, because there is this, I think, kind of this innate impulse to like capture it and make it our own, right?
Yes.
Think about
Like
how
we
often
want.
we use our cameras.
Trying
Like,
to own it.
When I'm on vacation, I want to get all the pictures and I got to get it from this angle and this angle. And of course, it never looks the same as the moment we actually experienced it, but we long to like capture that,
Yeah.
you know, and hold on to that. So
yeah, that's very interesting. And then when you capture it, it dies.
Right.
It's, you know, which is so
when you take it home.
We were just talking about what was it? The sand.
Yeah,
What was it?
exactly. The Tibetan monks that do the sand art,
Oh,
one grain
yes.
at a time.
Wild.
It's beautiful.
Create a
Amazing.
beautiful mandala of work that they work on for a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And then at the end,
It's meticulous,
it's
their work.
meticulous. One grain of sand at a time until it's complete, and then
They get rid of
they
it.
get rid of it.
And then they
just-
bring it down, usually to a body of water, and allow the sand to just flow,
Wow.
you know, back to the source, essentially. Yeah.
isn't it so
The
interesting?
letting go.
Yeah.
Shall we get maybe a question from one of our
Yes,
viewers
we did. We
to
got
close
Yes.
our
Mhm.
podcast for
Yeah,
today?
that's a good
Okay.
idea. We have a couple of questions here. So, should we talk about? This was an interesting one. Why do humans associate big eyes as beautiful and cute?
Mm.
Every time you see someone draw something like a version of a cute animal, they always give it big eyes and pupils. So this was the viewer's question. Why do we start associating wide and prominent eyes with beauty and charm?
I think it starts with babies, right?
Yeah, it's called the baby schema, and
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was that coined it, but it's essentially it's a perceptual kind of survival mechanism,
Mhm.
right? We look at like puppies, we look at babies, we look at tiny little things with big features, and something instinctively inside of us says, oh, like we must protect this stuff.
Yes. It's
We must
vulnerable.
care for it.
Vulnerable.
It's
Oh, it
vulnerable.
shows its vulnerability.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly. It
We
shows
have
it
It's
to-
brings
young.
out,
It's vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's
brings us out that we need to provide safety for it. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's interesting. I think also just kind of in wrapping up here, perhaps we could share some ideas about tools, or is there something that we could offer to our viewers from our conversation? Because for myself, I like to always have an altar in my space that I put beautiful things on my altar. And daily I like to visit the altar and like light a candle and just sort of connect really with the beauty and connect with that sort of inner beauty in me. Sometimes when you see something really beautiful, you can actually feel the beauty inside yourself.
It radiates.
It radiates,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I think you had a good idea
Mhm.
when you were talking earlier about like painting walls.
Mhm.
Like maybe if you feel like your space is just not nourishing,
Mhm.
right? What can you do differently? Well, maybe I could paint a wall my favorite
Mhm.
color, or like you said, even like
Mhm.
create a space
Mhm.
of your own
Mhm. A sacred space.
where
Mhm.
you can bring things that are beautiful, things you like to look at, things that smell good.
Taking a page from both of you,
Mhm.
it's like I keep going back to this idea. My mind keeps going back to this idea of congruence, right?
Mhm.
Like, does something feel congruent for you, right? If within a span of 24 hours, right, is there a moment where you feel this sense of almost like levity, this sense of like calm, right? This sense where everything is okay in that moment, right? What is it about that moment that is beautiful for you, right? And we use that word and we're like, well, I think of a flower, I think of a butterfly flapping its wings, maybe a rainbow, something. But take a moment, find the glimmer,
Mhm. Find the glimmer.
find the glimmer in
Find
your
the
day,
glimmer.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
What is it
Mhm.
that anchors you?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Consciously stop and actually notice
Yeah.
what that is. Form a relationship
Right.
with that anchor.
Connect
Find
with
the
it.
glimmer.
Yeah, connect with something. And I'm hearing in my head a couple of individuals in the back of my mind saying, that sounds kind of dumb. And it's like, well, no, hold on a second. Is it really that dumb? Or is it that you're just not used to it and you just haven't given it a shot? What would happen if for a moment You put those expectations and those standards and those stigmas to the side. And for 30 seconds, you hold on to connecting to that idea of like, wow, like what a beautiful cloud, what a beautiful cup of coffee, like some kind of moment.
Savoring that moment.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.